in the world, all safety is an illusion. That even here, where we feel very safe in this studio, an earthquake could hit, something could happen, a meteor could strike.
Physically, you're always trying to stay alive. It's really hard to die. Did you know that? It's really hard to die. The body really tries to stay alive.
Yeah.
Being alive is a health hazard. As you say, there's nowhere that's safe.
Anxiety can feel like an invisible weight shaping how we think, how we act, and even how we breathe. In today's conversation, we step into a safe space between Kelvin and his longtime therapist, Sarah. Together, they open up about some of the challenges that shape our daily lives: anxiety, productivity, and the unspoken pressures of identity. Sarah reminds us that anxiety isn't a weakness, it's a signal, a call to pause, to listen, and to care for ourselves with compassion.
Welcome to another amazing episode, Karafi Kenyonyi as usual. My guest today is my therapist and friend, Sarah Kihuha. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to first for the people to get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to start with Sarah Kihuha. That's your name.
Yeah.
You're a therapist. That I know because you're my therapist. I've seen you for how many sessions? 24 sessions, I think.
Yeah, 24.
That's a lot of sessions. But I needed all the help I could get. And so maybe we could start there. How did Sarah become a therapist? How do you qualify to be a therapist?
Okay. Well, of course, there is the educational process where you finish high school, then go to psychology, school of psychology, whichever.
So you studied psychology?
I did.
Where?
In South Africa.
Oh.
Shout out to University of Venda.
University of Venda in South Africa.
In Tawayando, some little village in South Africa.
Uh-huh.
And I trained as a trauma counselor. But if we could backtrack it to my personal journey and how I ended up as in the field.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a doctor because my dad is a doctor. And in continuing high school, like through the school system, then I realized that I am not very good with blood and body fluids, and I cringe at such stuff, even though I love biology and I'm very good at understanding the concept. And then it didn't click at first, but then I realized that when it was easy for me to sit with people and to sit with people's stories and be the person that people come to look for to talk about stuff. I'm struggling with a boyfriend, I'm struggling with this teacher, I'm doing this, and would try to look for solutions and talk through things. And then I started wondering, is there a cause for something like this? Then I realized that underneath all that, the basis was service. I had grown up inspired by my father, who was, like I said, a doctor, but he went above and beyond just the clinic or the hospital where he was. He was a people's person. He's the kind of doctor who goes to search for patients at their homes and to make sure, like, follow the patient until they are okay, whether or not it's paying. That kind of service of it's beyond just the diagnosis that they're dealing with at the hospital. It is making sure that this person is okay, the family is okay, they're getting the support they need. And that is what I figured that if I could, like, this seems like it is my calling to sit with people and walk with them their journeys. And then psychology seemed like the next best thing because I couldn't deal with fluids. So I can deal with emotions. And so I went and studied psychology. And I thought I'd go and do the big stuff and be a clinical psychologist and maybe neuropsychologist and stuff like that. But then in my years of practice, I think it's about 18 years now. In my years of practice, I have realized that just sitting with people's stories and looking at people beyond diagnosis, because sometimes you get fixated on that. That is where I thrive most. And that is where I am today.
Okay.
Yeah.
You talk about sitting with people's stories. And I love stories, and I have a complicated story, I think, that is very hard for me to tell without sometimes feeling like maybe I'm invalidating some people, or I'm playing a victim, or being a villain, or trying to sound like a hero. What's like, what do you think is the challenge with sitting with people's stories that one needs to go and get trained to just be able to hold those stories and listen to people and help them work through their problems?
That's an interesting question. The challenge, I believe, is you have your story.
Yeah.
I too have my story. So if I have not sat with my own stories, it's easy for me when I'm sitting with, I will not be able to create space for you to bring up your stories and let them breathe. Our stories will be breathing together. I'll be seeing my stories in your stories. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'll be talking about, or rather I'll be sitting with my client and they'll be talking about what they have been through, and I'd be there trying to think, okay, this sounds like a certain diagnosis, and they're fitting, and they're checking the list, because there is a list of symptoms, and I'm checking the list of symptoms, and in my head I'm trying to figure out, okay, so for this set of symptoms, this is the therapy route that would work, or modality that would really work to help this person. And so that would be clashing, because I'd be putting you in a box. Even though you fit, I'd be dragging you in there. So I find that to be one of the challenges, where you're not able to see an individual outside the checklist, or outside the checklist, making it that they're just that story. And then also, like I said initially, the other challenge would be that I'm looking at your story and also my story, and saying, oh, like that, that incident is also what happened to me, and then I'm doing that, and then I'm remembering this is how I handled it, or this is how I should have handled it. So I'd be telling you, you should try go this way, because that's what I could have done or would have done. Not that there is something wrong with that, but then I am also not giving you chance for your story to just breathe, because sometimes that's just all we need, to have space for our stories to breathe. Yeah. So you need to go for training on how to help people, like create spaces, and it's not just one off. It has to keep continuing.
The training.
The training, yes. Yeah. It's not just one off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, because I find myself do that sometimes, and someone tells me their story and I insert myself into it, or exactly what you described. My mind goes back to, that happened to me. Like, oh, I know I've been in that situation, but I've not been in their situation. I've not been through what they've been through. And so you're saying you get trained to sort of separate my story from the other person's story. Okay.
The element of, like, honing into the element of empathy versus sympathy. Sympathy would be me feeling your story, and like, wow, that must hurt. It must hurt the way mine hurt, even though, it is you who felt that and not me, but it must have hurt the way I felt hurt. And then dealing with it from that perspective, rather than empathy, where I'm just putting myself in your shoes and just sitting there and helping you to, I'm holding a mirror for you to see things the way they are from your perspective. Just that. And letting the story breathe. And then naming the pain, if possible, helping you to name the pain. And then there's also the fact that I believe that people have solutions to their problems, just that sometimes the thought process gets complicated.
Yeah.
So helping you to, or creating space for figuring it out.
Okay, well, that's really powerful for me to hear, that you're holding the mirror for me to see my situation from my perspective. Why do I need a mirror to see my situation? Why can't I just see it? It's my situation. Why do I need to come to Sarah for her to hold a mirror for me to see it? Why is it hard for me to see it clearly without sometimes someone like you holding up that mirror to me?
Because when you're too close to the mirror, You may not see everything. There are blind spots. Everyone has a blind spot. And like one of my therapists, yes, I do go for therapy too. Yeah. One of my therapists would tell me a brain surgeon cannot operate on themselves.
True.
So even though you're the one sitting with the story, it would be important for you to share it with somebody so that you can even hear your words. And as I'm holding the mirror for you to see what this looks like, you'd be like, oh, I didn't even notice that I have so much anger while I say that. Because you may think that you are saying something very normal. Like, say, for instance, you're telling a certain story, and because you have been so used to telling it in a certain way, you don't notice where you're cynical talking about it.
Yeah.
But that cynical laughter is hiding a lot of pain. Or you think that it is anger that you are projecting, yet it's not anger, maybe it's embarrassment or what. So as you tell your story, it becomes clear that, okay, so this is what I have been holding so long.
Yeah.
So when you have somebody else holding the mirror, you will see things more clearly.
Yeah. And why is it hard for people to be able to name their emotions? Because I've been there where I'm telling someone, I'm so angry at you. And then they come back and they tell me, I see how sad you are. I'm like, no, I didn't say I'm sad. I said I'm angry.
I'm angry.
And then when I sit with what they're telling me, I realize I'm actually sad. But this sadness is manifesting as anger. And I needed help to name that emotion. Why is it, do you think, like, why is this gap? Like, I can't even name my emotions, yet I'm the one who's feeling them and I've lived with them.
I think that in response, many times we are reacting to the things that happen to us. And so in reacting, we don't have the vocabulary to say what we are feeling. Because there's that thing with the brain and the feeling brain and the thinking brain. When we are encountered with something that is trauma that inflicts trauma, and trauma not necessarily meaning these big things that may happen. It just means that your body doesn't have the capacity is overwhelmed in responding to what is there, so it reacts. So in reacting, we go with the first thing that we feel, whether it is anger, whether it is, and anger is usually the first one. As you say that, I would think that it is anger. Anger is usually the first. It's like a smoke screen. Behind this so much. So we may not be able to name, we may not have the vocabulary to name what it is that we are feeling, because mostly we are reacting and not responding.
Okay.
And for you to be able to respond, you need to find or to learn the skills to reconnect the thinking brain with the feeling brain. Because when we are reacting, the two separate. So that you react first, you get to safety, and then when you're safe, then you're able to start thinking about it. In the same example that you've given, you come talking to somebody about something and you say, I'm so angry at you. You're reacting to whatever has happened. And then as you continue talking, you start calming down. And maybe they start, say for instance, they take accountability for what has happened. And they maybe empathize with you. And then your system starts feeling safe enough to relax, and so you start responding to what they're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's hurt and not sad and not anger. Then you start having the vocabulary, because the thinking brain now is starting to feel safe enough to come back.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So there's a link there that I see, that you said that you believe that people have the ability, the capacity to solve their problems. So that is agency. And for me, the thing I'd like most to see in the world is people who are deeply connected to their sense of agency. And so when you say that you believe people have the capacity to solve their problems, and then you say that to be able to solve those problems, we need that reconnection between the thinking brain and, what did you call it?
The feeling
brain.
Yes.
why do we need that connection to be able to solve our problems well? Why is it so hard to solve my problems effectively if I just pretend to, like, you know, I'm an engineer, I'm logical, I don't think 1 + 1 = 2. Why is it hard to solve my problems just purely logically? And why is it hard for me to just solve my emotions with just emotion? Like, I'm so mad and I'm gonna bang everything. Why do we need that connection for us to solve our problems fully and effectively?
I'll give you. Is it an analogy of the thinking brain and the feeling brain and what happens? So, say for instance, we are told that certain snakes, you know, like they are this color. The snakes of a certain color are not venomous. Snakes of a certain color are venomous. So if a snake comes in here right now, or a snake appears here, there's someone who will try to get under this. There's one who will try to get under this. There's one who will try to crawl up the wall.
Yeah.
The thinking brain has to separate from the feeling brain. The thinking brain in upper belly at the frontal lobe.
Yeah.
So it involves the higher cognitive skills, the reasoning, the like drawing from facts and that, like you say, logic. It brings all that together. And then the feeling brain brings the memories, it brings the thoughts and all that. So the thinking brain has to go, because if it stays and make it, the feeling brain has to say, okay, body, let's run, let's hide, or let's freeze. There's somebody who freeze. There's somebody who, I don't know what to do. It has to do that because the body is created for safety and self-preservation. You can imagine if the snake comes and then you're like, okay, so what color of snake is this?
Yeah. Should I run or not?
Should I run? Oh, no, this one has orange. This one, they said orange ones are not venomous. So let me study it. In fact, where is that bottle so that we can put it for these guys to come and take it and go? You'd be dead by the time you figure out whether it's a venomous or snake or not.
Yeah.
So the thinking brain has to disconnect and let the feeling brain keep you safe first. And then when the danger is averted, then we look for ways to reconnect. Why is it necessary for there to be a reconnection? Now, put that in terms of now the mental health. The feeling brain allows you to, like I said, to be safe first, to get to safety so that the body can be preserved. And then after that, when the danger is averted, then we can now start thinking about what has happened. Think about the many incidences of the things that we get involved in, maybe altercations with people. Sometimes maybe it's a boss, or it's a partner, or it's a situation in life. You need to deal, the feeling brain goes away. I mean, the thinking brain goes away and you deal with the emotions first. Maybe mtu anaanza start by crying first, or shouting at the thing, because maybe it feels like if I am angry and I'm projecting anger, this person will get away from me.
Yeah.
And then afterwards is when I can think about whether that was a good way of dealing with it or not. Another one will just start crying, bawling their eyes out.
Yeah.
And maybe because the body feels like if we cry, maybe this person will feel pity on us and then they'll stop shouting at us, or we'll get away from this situation.
Yeah.
Again, it's for self-preservation and safety. Why do we need to reconnect with the thinking brain? And it's very, very important to learn that skill, because sometimes that anger will not work. If you are a person who is first and foremost reacting in anger or in fight or in flight mode, like you get into a situation and your first instinct is to duck, it won't work in the workplace. I'm so tired, I'm so overwhelmed with work, can I just sleep for a while? The work won't go.
No.
Or or this boss is coming at me and there's this altercation, so head on, let me say my piece. No, your piece you will be saying while you're being escorted out with the security.
Yeah.
So we need to learn to reconnect to the thinking brain and learn the skills to calm ourselves down and say, okay, can we find safety in this moment, even if it's internal safety, and try to reconnect the two so that we can make logical decisions, so that we can make, sometimes the logical decisions are what will preserve you. And sometimes the logic alone will not work, because if you only deal with statistics, and sometimes you lose a feel of the people or a feel of the things that you have to do, and sometimes you need to lead with heart and not just with brain, and that is why it's important to have the connection.
Yeah.